I'm pretty sure it is a visual novel. Well, that is what I know. I heard someone some time ago, I don't even know who, but someone said that they liked it. That's all I know about this. To Burn in Memory is an ahistorical and atemporal interactive fiction work for IFComp 2015. I don't know what IFComp is. Explore a city that never existed and uncover its secret history through the memories of a woman that lived its darkest moments. Mild content warning for violence and war. Right, enter. Because I just started. That's what I've done before. I've started the game, and then I figured out, oh, this is a visual novel, and at that time I was reading another visual novel, so I decided to postpone this visual novel. I kind of want the font to be bigger, but maybe we'll get to options later. I don't know. Like it's super small. It's difficult to read. Okay, but we're at the balcony of the institute below the tower. That makes any sense? Breathtaking, isn't it? You're breathtaking, says Salandre, gesturing over the vista. Here is the city as I saw it, empty, painted in rust and gold, below tormented skies writhing in cruel fire. She continues, in a tone somewhere between opera and pantomime. Painted in rust and gold? Right? Symbolic, a brief expression of sadness. Then she... Wait, what? What is that symbolic? Symbolic, a brief expression of sadness. Then she continues, or perhaps the romanticists in me cannot stomach to tell this tale without an image such as this. I gave my life to this place, she says with a sigh, and now I offer it to you, my tale as seen through my eyes. But your judgment must be yours alone. I shall play the part of the cicerone. Don't understand that word. After my fashion, but not in a manner you expect, for I will be beside you only in memory. This should suffice to guide you through this tale to its end, and my absence will grant you clear eyes to draw of this the conclusions you will. Find me then in the orchards. We are in the balcony. This looks like options. And oh, I turned music off. I turned music on, I think. What is this? Nope. I'll click the scroll in the left. Wait. All right, we're back in the game. That is just credits or something. We have a lot of buttons that I have no idea what they mean. They're keys. Oh, let's read before we screw something up. So, balcony. Oh, that was just an introduction of the woman saying we're looking from her memory, right? To burn in memory. We're going through her memory and making decisions on what happened, probably. We're still at the balcony, so. A balcony facing westward to the fore of a rooftop terrace, overlooking the city. Oh, I like that. I'm so terrible with names, so I like... Oh, we can click the city. Nothing happened. Overlooking the city. Weird. Stretching outwards, the setting sun and that ever-present crimson fog. Twin streams fed by long aqueducts flanked the tower in an embrace, then split again in symmetry, to fall into over the facades of the structure. Holy shit. This is gonna be practice. The language seems a little more difficult than the previous one, eh? A little more poetic, perhaps. I have issues with poetry. It's like issues reading it. Difficulties. There we go. Difficulties might be the word. Twin streams fed by long aqueducts. We're just looking out of the balcony from below the tower. That's kind of weird. The institute below the tower. I still don't understand quite what's going on. Banana Waffle Mux is gonna have to get the OED out. Perhaps. So far, I think there was only like one word that I didn't really know. The 4, but that's probably just like an old way of saying in front of or like before. Like or in front of, something like that. And I don't think that screws me over. Rooftop terrace overlooking the city stretching. It's just painting a picture. Here we go. We're just painting a picture. Behind, right? The 4 of the rooftop, and here we're behind us. Paved pathways connected the cardinal point of the circular structure. What is the cardinal point? That I don't know what that is. And at their intersection rose a delicate white tower. Yeah, that's the tower we're below. That's another name, right? A delicate white tower, starkly contrasting the silhouetted black spires of the horizon. So a lot of black spires, but one white tower, and we're below the tower. The institute, I think. What happens if I click this? Oh. Delicate, but only to a cursory glance. Crafted as it was with such mediated fragility in form that in consonance, that word I don't know, with the expanse of the terrace, it would appear slender. Arcades accentuated the circumference of the terrace as the sun fell on the water like a scar. My memories doesn't work like this. Not even close. Clearing in... Wait, what the fuck happened? Oops. Let's not just press random buttons. Banana Waffle Monkey says that he thinks consonance is like synergy in the context. Yeah, kind of feels that way, right? Synergy, contrasting, something like that. Like within this context, it's built to look slender, right? Yeah. Banana Waffle Monkey agrees. Yeah, my memory doesn't work like this at all. I mean, I have like I've been to New Zealand, for example, and a lot of the nature there is awesome. I've been to the cliffs of Moher, and that was awesome. But I couldn't describe my memory like this. It's just big in my mind. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, nature is beautiful. Maybe my memory is like this. It's just I'm not a creative author, so maybe it is like this. Banana waffle monkeys, like in the way it interacts or work with the other thing. Yeah, exactly. So we've got one choice here to follow pathways below the tower. But I'm really curious about all these buttons. So this button did nothing. So let's click this button. This button does nothing. All right, so let's press this button. This button goes back, I guess. No, it does nothing. What about this? Nothing. 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 And nothing. Super helpful. Super helpful indeed. Is there an options? Wait, what is this? No. I don't wanna exit, no. Maybe I do wanna exit to find options. No, let's follow the pathways to below the tower. It's weird, I thought we were on a balcony. The wind whistled through the arcades, a low and mournful hum. At the opposite side of the tower, I could fully behold the western vista, a river stretching out to the horizon. The opposing shore veiled and blurred in fog. This is the second mention of that fog. There was like something everlasting about the fog, right? Receiving long shadows cast from the tower. Radiating outward from the tower were the roaring falls, glittering in the half-light. They split the... Wait, what was... Radiating outward from the tower were the roaring falls. Are we talking about waterfalls? From the tower. Glittering in the half-light, they split the circular piazza into two tiers. That lower tier accessible from here by twin descending staircases that curved inwards to embrace a small landing. Colgate in on tab says, from everlasting summer to everlasting fog. Yeah, I'm also thinking that it's... I have images of autumn for some reason. Autumn. Yeah, it has been fiery colors. Yellow, orange, reddish colors, right? Maybe it's sunset. I think they were talking about sunset. But I got the feeling that it is autumn. I don't know why. So where were we? Yeah. The roaring falls glittering in the half-light. Yeah, that's got to be waterfalls from the tower. It has been a lot of water. We have the twin aqueducts. We have these falls from the tower. We have a river. A lot of water going on. Staircases that curved inwards to embrace a small landing. Though blackened windows teased Though blackened windows teased entrance, the tower itself allowed no means of ingress at this level. Return to balcony or descend the stairs into the landing. Oh fuck, we have no idea. We have no idea of intentions. This is just pick a path. It's like, I don't like backtracking, so let's not backtrack. We just left the balcony, why would we return? Descend the stairs into the landing. We're at the landing now, by the institute below the tower. The stairways flattened out and continued, splitting the flow in two to descend. Wait, what flow are we talking about? The stairways flattened out and continued, splitting the flow in two to descend toward the outer arcades and the Red River. Yeah, Red River, eh? The entrance to the White Tower was here. Dark in the shadow of the waning sun, a black monolith of a door, seamless and with no visible means of admission. Examine the door, climb the steps to the landing overlook, or descend the stairway to the river. Do we want to go into the tower? Do we want to... I kind of want to go to the river. That's like my personal preference. I really love the intersection between water and land. I hate all the sand on the beach, but I love watching the horizon. Just watching big bodies of water. I like rivers as well. So let's go to the river. Since we have no idea about not really anything, it's just that the tower is mysterious. But everything is mysterious so far, so let's go to the river. So we're at the riverside staircase, still in the institute, flanked by architraved columns. That's an interesting word. Kind of want to copy it. Architraved. Like an arch. I know what an arch is, but this is the arch, right? In classical architecture, an architrave? An architrave. No, architrave. Right? From my Italian, chief beam is the intel or beam that rests on the capitals. So it's this bit, right? Yeah, it's this bit here. That I didn't know. Yeah, they have like a block on top of them, the columns. So far, it's not a very visual novel, is it? It's an interactive novel. Yeah, it's not a visual novel, it's an interactive novel, which is fine. Holding back to streams, the staircase ended at the great river, for a wide iron gateway leading to the quay. I could feel the falls, ever present, thunder behind thick stone. Yeah, there are waterfalls falling from the tower. That's interesting. A brass gate barred the way down to the promenade. Let's examine. Why can't we go out? Are we stuck in this institute? We are... Oh, fuck. It wants... It's painting a geographic picture. And that is... If I can see a map, I'm all right with maps, and I can figure maps out. But making my own map from words, that won't help me at all. This won't help. We're at the Sun Gate anyway, by the Riverside staircase. Still in the Institute. The Institute's entrance rear gate. Yeah, we're at the rear, so the rear is to the west. All right, if you say so. Was no less great work than its brother, the same elegance and strength, gold hue belying the fortitude of a stronger metal. Bright brass fashioned to call to the mind the sun needs all its radiance. Leave. All right, so we're back. So we can go back up. Well, this is not super interactive so far. We can just go back or we can go forward. We have examined, so we have to go back to the upper landing, which is where we were before, right? You flatten out and continue splitting the flow into two, yeah. We have the doors. We did descend to the river and there was just a closed brass gate. We can go to the landing overlook. That is where we were before, right? Just to figure out the game. Yeah, return to the balcony. Yeah, there has been no choices so far. Except investigating this door. Oh, wait. Going down, we descend the stairs. And then... So it is actual, we can actually backtrack. It's not the character goes back and goes down and then goes up again. It's we who move back and forth in the text. Which is fine. Let's examine the door. Into the tower, eh? On closer inspection, a tight seam outlined a smaller inset door. Featureless, except for an ornate handle intricately, is that how it's pronounced? Intricately decorated with solar motif. It was unlocked. Let's enter the tower. The atrium took up the entirety of the first two floors of the tower. Hugging stately wooden paneling. Oh, wooden paneling, eh? It's been a lot of metal and stone so far. Oh, wooden paneling. A spiral staircase swept upwards. Heavy dust-filled beams of light shone through long vertical windows to fall on a sea of charred remains. Wait, what? The curled cinders of countless books. Oh, they've been burning books, have they? That is rough. I don't like that. Burning books. Oh. Two doors opposed each other. The black painted monolith. Two doors opposed each other. The black painted monolith of a door leading back to the terrace. That is where we came from. And a smaller set of built wooden and brass inlay. Smaller set built of wood and brass inlay. Open to the remains of a once great hallway. Alright, so it's a once great hallway. Sift through the ash. Ascend the staircase. Enter the atrium hallway. I mean, why would we sift through the ash? We have no motivation to do this, except that it's here, because it's a game, we have the motivation to click it because it's a button. It's a big red button, just click it. But like the person here, we know nothing about the person's motivation. We just know we went in, we saw this, sift through the ash. No, let's not do that. Let's enter the atrium hallway. So we're in the atrium hallway. Through the shattered remains of glass panels. So, yeah, these are ruins. Well, not super old ruins. But she did say that the city was empty, right? Through the shattered remains of glass panels held aloft by ribs of steel, the waning sun filled the atrium with diffused light in tones of blood and gold, again with the red and yellow. Bidding welcome to the devastation below. Tattered and smoke-blackened banners flew from the ironwork buttresses. Countenance, again, this word. No, was it the same? No? Countenance cast in vivid red under those stains, wrought of battle. It has been a battle and burning of books. Surviving with all that stowing dignity of a final stand. Charred furniture stood as makeshift barricades under layers of cinder and, catching the light, thick shards of broken glass. Examine the grand gate. We're in the atrium hallway still. The Institute's entrance gate was a masterwork in brass. Oh, we came from the back. Like a back entrance. The Institute's entrance gate was a masterwork in brass, elegant and strength in equal temperance. Gold hue belying the fortitude of stronger metal, shut tight. Wait, did we leave the tower? I thought atrium was part of the tower. Let's enter the tower again. Ascend the staircase. We're at the library landing. We're in the tower, in the library. The library was cylindrical in structure, occupying in full the 7th to the 11th floors. Wait, did we climb 7 floors? All right. The first of these constitute a reading area and a balcony. Followed by 3 floors of mezzanine. Mezzanine, what is that? Time to check. Mezzanine. Mezzanine, also Italian. So we've got Italian lingo going on. Mezzanine is, strictly speaking, an intermediate floor in a building, which is partially open. Oh, so this is a mezzanine. All right. Mm. 3 floors of mezzanine. Oh, all right. Now I understand, yeah. Common in libraries for some reason. I think. Yeah, I've seen a lot of mezzanines in libraries. The spiral staircase landed on the reading level below the filigree flow of iron buttress and girder that held up the first mezzanine. Oh, maybe if we click that, we get an explanation. Successively tapering outwards to be supported by sweeping beams of slender columns of wrought iron. This level was furnished with neatly arranged, though signs of struggle marked the floor where this was not. Right. This level was furnished with neatly arranged, though signs of struggle marked the floor where this was not without exception. Desks. Arranged desks, each with a single lamp. Why does it do that? Why does it give me the choice to read or not read the full description? All this grand structure forsook its purpose, however, as every shelf now held little more than a thin film of dust, their intended contents lying as ashes far below. All the books were burned? Centered in emphasis by the form of the library lay a statue with the features of a three-headed raven, gazing with mournful eyes out over the river, long shadows cast before its stare. What is that iconography? Three-headed raven? Three-headed raven. Not the three-eyed raven. Three-headed raven. It's a tattoo idea, no? But that's two different ravens, right? Or a pair of ravens. Yeah, that doesn't help us. Druidry? Oh, never mind. Step out on the balcony. The tower casts its shadow over the river to touch the fog-shrouded shore. A small device sits precariously on the stone balustrade. Examine the device. An elegant clockwork device the size of a pocket watch, closed with a latch relief. Latch relief depicting a snake devouring its own tail. Open? Yeah, let's open. No? Oh, yeah. Centered within the inner face of the device, a cold brass sigil sat above a complex clockwork mechanism. Seemingly activated by the opening of the device, a needle began to protrude from below the sigil in a short and abrupt whir of clockwork. Place the finger on the protrusion? Do we want to give the snake some blood? Its hunger sated, the sigil faded in luminescence to that of a low flame's dull glow. Take. Oh. This became white, right? Turn to the landing. Ascend the staircase. Let's climb the tower. I'm guessing that is what we're doing. We're in a dark hallway. The 11th floor consisted of a small hallway acting as a landing and final floor for the spiral staircase. Right? Windowless and unlit, but for a faint light sweeping in through the frame of the large door, taking up the opposite end of the room. Flanking it were vague shapes of statues, their forms illegible in the dark. Wait, can't we go to the... I guess not. Let's descend the staircase. I wonder what happened to the music. I thought I turned it off and turned it on again, but there's no music. Alright, so let's descend the staircase. Left. Sift through the ash, I suppose. Right? Activate memory. Let's activate the memory. Here comes the music. Alright. We gave them an ultimatum. To spill our blood is to put your word to the fire. To spill our blood is to put your word to the fire. There is a special place in the contempt of history for we book burners. Yeah? There is a special place in the contempt of history. Yeah. Fucking book burners. Fuck you guys. But I say that yours is a cold-hearted history. Indeed, to weigh ink above we living. Yeah. What's your point? Sure, from your point of view, it's cold-hearted. We don't care about you. You're long dead. Breathing men and women. Well, not anymore. In this our siege turned to a weary occupation. The provost held his own in that loft place of his, and we developed a begrudging respect for his adamants. Maybe this immutability held deference to some grain of truth in that ideology of theirs. I'm not quite sure what happened here. Like, so they were under siege, and they said, if you don't leave, we will burn all the books. We will burn all the knowledge. So it was the defenders who burned the books, not the aggressors. Well, not the attackers. We don't know who the aggressor was, right? So that was the ultimatum, right? Leave or we will burn the books. They didn't leave, so they burned the books. And they feel like we shouldn't judge them too harshly, they feel, because they were just trying to save their lives. You could have just bluffed, right? You didn't have to. You could start burning like it's a threat, right? I suppose. Empty threats are just that, empty. In this our siege turned to a weary occupation. Oh yeah, the city was sieged, but then the tower and in the library they had another siege. Like the city was occupied, I'm guessing. The provost, I'm guessing, is in that loft palace of his. I'm guessing that is the leader of the city, the provost. And we developed a begrudging respect for his adamants. That's insistence, right? Adamants. Adamancy. Definition of adamance. Adamancy. The quality or state of being adamant. Obstinate. Yeah, insistent, obstinate. Which browser do I use? Asks Colgate in on tap. I use Firefox. I'm happy with Firefox. NodeRunner tipped me about Epiphany or GNOME browser, and I've been thinking about it. But then again, I'm quite happy with Firefox. It works for my purposes. Parts of me really want to get a more slim one, not as bloated. But then as someone said, well, the internet is bloated, so what are you gonna do? So the people who are talking are the people working in the tower and in the library. They like the occupation, but they like locked themselves in the tower, and the provost, the leader, whatever, he locked himself into his palace. This is like, it is an weary occupation that they haven't really taken over the full city yet, but they're doing their best, I suppose. E-Links is pretty slim, says Colgate on taps. I did use Lynx for a little while. E-Links, I feel I remember this. It's a text-based web browser for Unix-like operating systems. Lynx web browser, hence, yeah, it's forked since then, enhanced or extended. Yeah, it's like Vim. OpenBSD removed E-Links from its ports tree, citing concerns with security issues and lack of responsiveness from the developers. It's slim, but that on the same time, I want some stuff like I want this. The Dark Reader. Like I can't live without this. This is such a great add-on. I'm guessing that is difficult to get running in like E-Links and whatnot. But I have run with this. I was kind of thinking of Lynx browser. I think it's called Lynx browser, right? Yeah. It's a terminal browser. Lynx. Like if you're having a text-based browser, then you might as well do it in the terminal, right? E-Links is as dark as your terminal. Oh, so E-Links is a terminal thing as well. I didn't. Yeah, it's a terminal thing as well. The E-Links. I'm guessing Lynx is like, oh, where did it go? It is the oldest web browser still being maintained, starting in 1992. I was gonna guess that this was like a fork of Lynx or E-Links then, but maybe not. But so E-Links is a terminal thing as well then. I wonder what the difference is then. Like, I'm curious. E-Links versus Lynx. What does Stack Overflow think? Please state your reasons for your terminal browser. Why are you using Lynx or E-Links? How do they help you in programming? If you're asking which one I prefer for a more complete browsing experience, I prefer E-Links. It has tabbed browsing, download, password management, tab navigation, and within a terminal. It also partially supports CSS. Supports frames. It also partially supports JavaScript. A little bit. Not as important, but E-Lynx supports more protocols than Lynx. So E-Lynx is a more... It's just a more version than Lynx. So yeah, E-Lynx sounds like a fun idea. If you're asking which is more suitable for testing text-only browsers, Lynx is probably more popular. But E-Lynx... I mean, E-Lynx seems like it has more features, right? For comparison, that is what we were looking for. E-Lynx, engine links. This is the problem, I suppose, with E-Lynx. That is sad. But Lynx is still active. So why E-Lynx over Lynx then? I'm guessing that it's not enhanced, right? But it's still being so. E-Lynx is... I don't like this. Don't like that at all. But it did add password management, and I do love password management. But I've started using the... well, I can use that in a separate thing, the Bitwarden thing. I'm a bit lazy though. I'm probably gonna just stick with Firefox for now. Maybe someday in the future I'll move on. Let's see, maybe this immutability held deference to some grain of truth in that ideology of theirs. What ideology? I want to know. Like they refuse to give up? I don't know. But all things have their terminants. And in our world, with its... How often do you hear people talk like that in our world? Like when you're talking about something that happens. Do people use that type of language when we're talking about in our world? I can remember doing it a couple of times, but I'm thinking in this kind of context, it kind of implies a comparison with a different world, doesn't it? It kind of feels like it's for our benefit rather than them actually speaking. Colgate InnoTab says, I used to use Firefox back when Vimperator worked nicely with it. Then I moved to Chromium, and now I use Brave. I was thinking of moving to use Brave as well, but Chromium is getting fucked right now, right? Chromium is getting fucked by Google. Yeah. It felt off. I like the idea of Brave, but they have been doing scummy shit as well, the Brave browser. I'm happy with Firefox for now. I would want to have... I don't know what I would want. Firefox fulfills my needs. There we go. It just works. Yeah, that is what I want from a browser. I want a just works browser. Yeah, right. I switched to Brave, but the ad blocker didn't function very well. Yeah. It was like, the ad blocker isn't working as well as I wanted to. Like it didn't work on YouTube for a while, and I'm like, that is unacceptable. So then I went back to Firefox. Here we go. But all things have their terminants, and in our world, with its unsleeping machineries of whirring revolutions. The eternal now holds little truth. Eternal now. Yeah, it has been talking about stuff like that. Like clockwork in their monotony, the state will respond to the portent of violence in kind. Yeah, that makes sense. And on the 10th day of our occupation, the 33rd showed their hand. And the sight of the artillery cast a surreal pall over us, and we could not imagine their use. In this queer way, they have proved of little use in threat. Night falls now, and I fear all this ideology of violence will become far less speculative before it is over. So it was a revolution. They started off with a peaceful revolution, but then they showed their hand, right? They did bring water. They wore artillery. They brought stuff with war. So it seems like it was kind of a peaceful civilization, peaceful city and whatnot. But then there were an ideological clash. People decided to make what is it called? Not a queue. Fuck. A hostile takeover. Whatever. It's they decided to make a hostile takeover, and they were prepared to be violent. Like there was escalation and escalation and escalation, and one of the things that they escalated to was burning the books. So it wasn't like ideological burning books. It's like, fuck you for starting to kill people. We'll kill the books. Something like that. Colgate Innotab says, well, Firefox has been a bit scummy lately as well. Yes, I know. It sucks. Mozilla has been a bit scummy indeed. They made a blog post about deplatforming, which goes very hard against open source principles. Yep. Well, very hard. I agree. I haven't read the thing. I saw someone look about it, but actually we can just skim through it a little bit. We need more than deplatforming, they say. There's no question that social media played a role in the siege and takeover of the US Capitol on January 6th. I don't like this premise at all. I mean, yes, but I mean, social media has played parts in revolutions that people like social media plays a part in role in most stuff right now, in politics as well. Like whether you agree or disagree with this, I feel is right, if you say so. Since then, there have been significant focus on the deplatforming of President Donald Trump. By all means, the question of when deplatforming a head of state is a critical one, among many that must be addressed. But when should platforms make these decisions? Yeah, and that, I mean, there we come in like whoever runs a platform, they don't have any, like they can deplatform whoever they want. Like Twitter can deplatform whoever they want. It's It's their platform. That's how it works. They have all the control. And I have issues with that, but why should... I mean, that's up to each platform, right? Why would Mozilla decide when Twitter should deplatform someone? Like, that's up to Twitter. Is that decision-making power theirs alone? Well, purely functionally, pragmatically, yes. That is how it works. They have access to the servers. I don't have access to that. There's another question if they want to ask, should that decision-making power be theirs alone? That is an interesting question. And I think that is an important question. I agree that should that decision-making power be theirs? I don't think so. I think it should be a political decision. I think it should be a democratic decision. What rules for deplatforming looks like. And I think there should be places where, I mean, that's me personally, and I'm okay. That's just, yeah, that is just my opinion, right? And I'm okay that others will not agree with me. And that is, again, that is why I'm saying that should be a political decision, if it should be a political decision as well, right? I would argue that it is a political decision. Otherwise, why would people talk about it? Why would you bring it up as an example, right? It is politics. It is part of the world and like part of our society. And we want to make decision on how it works. If we're not happy on how Twitter does things, I mean, one could argue, well, then just leave Twitter. Like, I don't have any Twitter. I don't have any Facebook. I don't have any... And I'm trying to leave Google behind, right? I have Google Mail here, but I've switched to Proton Mail. Well, I'm in the process of switching. I'm probably not going to erase my Google Mail, just the same as I am not replacing my Microsoft account, since I have to have Teams, because people are idiots and using Teams. But as reprehensible as the actions of Donald Trump are, like here, I don't agree. You know, I've said this ad nauseum that I don't... You find him reprehensible. I find him reprehensible, I think. I haven't looked into it a lot. I mean, I don't like this dude. I don't like him. I don't like what he's doing, what he did. I'm glad he's out. I'm glad he's out. I'm not even sure what this word means. I don't like his actions. They don't like his actions. But there is no objective morality in this. Like, there's 2 times now. You have derived an ought from an is. Twice, Mozilla. I don't like that. But then we have the, I don't know if you've seen the latest ContraPoints video, which had a very, very interesting point. A very interesting point. I'm a little bit bored with how there's so much trans discussion. I understand why it is like it's not. I'm not trans, right? So it doesn't affect me very much. I don't know anyone trans, so it doesn't affect any of. Well, I have trans acquaintances along back, so I mean, I feel that, like she put it in that video, the important question is the equality of trans people. And I agree with that. Like, moving the discussion towards a philosophical metaphysics discussion is not what she wants to do, right? She doesn't want to do it. Like, a lot of people, like here, have the tendency in this question to make what they're talking about here, make a question about the ethics of what is it called? Freedom of speech, right? That is, as far as I have understood it, like people are arguing for freedom of speech. But that is like we're talking to, and that is like the attitude, the discussion that I would turn this into, because that is my personality, right? I love metaphysics and philosophy and stuff like that. I'm way more interested. Like in the ContraPoints video, she said that it's pointless arguing what gender is. She wants to talk about the political issue about equality. And I understand that, but I disagree. I find, well, from that perspective, the metaphysics discussion is pointless, right? You know, like pragmatical, we do know that people are trans, they want equal rights, and that is one political discussion to have. And in that context, the metaphysics of what is gender becomes pointless. I understand that. But for me personally, I love metaphysics, and I would rather have the what is gender discussion than the discussion about equality. And that's just my personal preference. I do like my beliefs, my opinions are that everybody should have equal. We should have like equal opportunity. Like we shouldn't step on people, trample on people, or spit on people just because they are different from us. Like I don't see the point of that. I like an inclusive society. And I feel that deplatforming is not an inclusive society. All right, but the rampant use of the internet to foment violence and hate. That is interesting. Like we have the political issue becomes like with, what are they called again? The guy and the ones who, where they pretty much said straight out that, oh yeah, we were doing like the Cambridge thing. Like the people who manipulated, they identified through Facebook the flip votes, right? And did all their heavy marketing and like straight out lying to people in Facebook, in their Facebook feeds. Like they identified people based on them being able to be flipped and then flip them with lies. And that I feel is not okay. I think that is a bigger problem than I would argue that whoever is doing that should be deplatformed. That is what I argue for. That because that is like there are two different questions, right? That we have to value against each other. One is the question of like lying to people to get them to change their vote change their voice, their attitude within a democratic process. Like I'm all for I have a different view of what democracy is, but I'm still arguing for a good democratic process. And I would argue for that the democratic process needs to be defended. And that democratic process, I would argue for that truth is one way to, I don't really know where I'm going with this. But yeah, looking for truth, right? Like this dude is a liar. He lies all the time. And the political question is, should we allow people just to lie straight out, or should we as a society try to move towards systems where we say that lying is not okay? Like we have to make decisions. This is kind of recent for me, this type of thinking. That is why I'm mumbling and not really know what I'm thinking about. But the valuing, there are two different questions side by side, and one needs to make a personal decision. What question do I value more? like this, and it's like if we look at just what Mozilla is doing here, like they're deriving S from aughts, aughts from S's. That is super important to me. But something else that is important to me is that people are not being manipulated by people like this. So there are two different opinions, right? That my opinions are conflicting in this very situation, isn't it? Because from one point of view, I would argue for deplatforming. But on the question of, like if we just look at the question of deplatforming, I would argue for it's never okay to deplatform anyone. So what do I value more? We have to take I feel that I have to take a pragmatic point of view, like consequentialistic point of view. Right? We were talking about that like a week ago or something, about consequentialism and intent. And we were thinking that intent, like ignorance, is a defense for bad consequences once or twice. But the end, it becomes well, from my moral views, it becomes important, a part of my code of ethics from that discussion. Like I have to integrate that studying consequences is part of it. So what is the consequences? Donald Trump lying to people? That is a super difficult question to answer. And I don't think Mozilla is the people to answer that. They do have the power, just like Twitter has the power. Mozilla has the power over Firefox. So Mozilla has even more power than Twitter has in this question. So actually, them saying stuff about this and publishing their views is a good idea. Yeah, not the first politician to exploit the architecture of the internet. Yeah, and he won't be the last. So, do you believe that you can somehow make people not exploit the architecture? Can you make a better architecture? Is that what you're saying, Mozilla? What would that look like? Additional precise specific actions must be taken. Reveal who is paying for advertisements. I'm behind that, yes. Reveal who's paying for advertisements, how much they are paying, and who's being targeted. I mean, this feels like the open source thing, right? Opening up, showing the people the information. I mean, open source philosophy becomes a wide term, but this I'm behind this. Yeah. Show what people are doing. It's like I've said before, I spent a lot of time of my youth being angry about all the mass surveillance that is happening. Then someone pointed out, well, you lost. All the data collection is here and it's here to stay. It's too useful. And I have to agree. Data collection is too fucking useful in too many ways. So I've flipped my views on that to, instead of telling people to stop data collecting, I want the data to be public. In the public domain. I want all the data to be available to everyone. So everyone can see both the data that are being collected about them, so they can decide what they want to share and not share. Like something along those lines for the individual, but also for society as a whole. Like psychology could move could develop way faster with access to all this data, because that is how a lot of psychology is developed, right? You make a questionnaire and you look at how does people react to this, and then you have to ask like a lot of people. You have to ask a lot of people. But if the data is already here, you just have to collect the data and do the math, do the statistical maths, right? The same with this. What people are doing, being open with it. I like that. Commit to meaningful transparency on platform algorithms, so we know how and what content is being amplified to whom and associated impact. Again, transparency. I'm all for transparency. This feels again like open sourcey principles, I think. So these two I like. I would stand behind these political questions. Turn on by default the tools to amplify factual voices over disinformation. Here it becomes a problem. This is a problem. You can't do this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. We've talked about this before, right? What is truth? What are facts? People don't agree on that basic premise. So this is you deciding what are facts, right? That is not inclusive. Like, I'm a lot for the abolishment of organized religion, right? I would want to see, well, that sounds very harsh on my part, but like organized religion, I don't like it. I want it to stop. I want people to move towards a more scientific approach. I would want people to move over to use my view of how to generate facts. Like, I want that. I don't know if me and Mozilla agrees on what facts are, but that doesn't matter. Like, doing this is exclusionary. You exclude everyone who doesn't agree with you, which is bad for democracy. It is bad, and I do feel that increasing democracy is a worthwhile effort, and this here is decreasing. Like, you're shutting people out. You're actively shutting people out. I don't like that. I would not agree with that. Colgate on tap says, third part though, yeah. These two, yes, I'll get behind them. This, like, yeah, New York Times decides. I mean, I agree, like, trying to get people to stop lying. Like, and also, man, it becomes an interesting when you look at specifics. It becomes interesting. Like, I would prefer, like, we talk a lot of bullshit here, right? We talk a lot about pseudo-intellectualism, right? I would prefer that, like, if I have a math idea and I present that idea, and you, Colgate on Tap, has a math idea and you present your idea, and those views are opposed to each other, I would argue that your idea should be easier to find than my idea. But that also happens, right? That happens, like, within maths and science. It's the strength of the idea. So I still don't think I find an argument for this. Like, again, that is my assumption. Again, that is what I would argue for. Then we can flip the whole thing around as well. Because I'm pretty sure that me and Mozilla are in quite the agreement here, right? That's the new perspective that ContraPoints gave me, right? That, like, I'm pretty sure that what they think, the voices that they want to amplify, are the same voices that I would want to amplify. So that becomes an interesting question. Like, from an ethical standpoint, I think this is exclusionary and it's bad for democracy and whatnot. But a lot of stuff from the other side, what Trump is doing, is even worse for democracy in my mind. So maybe this question, maybe I should get behind this, because Mozilla are talking about voices that I would want to amplify. Like, there is political gain for my views by doing this. Even though, like, it's the end justified means discussion, right? If we're gonna include consequentialism into our ethics, then Mozilla doing this, and if they can make other stuff doing this, then that is consequentially that will lead to politics that I like. It makes me feel dirty, but maybe I should. Colgate InnoTabs is super users do intellectualism. No, pseudo. No, sorry. Pseudo. Being apparent rather than actual, as stated. Like, we're not doing formal logic. Like, I haven't done any formal logic, but I talk a lot about logic. That is pseudo-intellectual. There's a lot of, like, Sam Harris is a pseudo-intellectual. Jordan Peterson is a pseudo-intellectual. Like, that type of, we just talk on the internet about and building my personal worldview and your personal worldviews, right? We're not doing actual science and actual logic. Sorry about that. It's my pronunciation makes it sound like pseudo users do intellectualism. Colgate InnoTabs asks, do you find inherent value in democracy? Yeah, I have done formal logic as well. It's just not here. I think you have done here, yeah. You gave some example. We did read a little bit of a paper as well, but again, I didn't read the full paper, the paper that you showed me, right? I just read the first bits and made assumptions based on the rest, right? Inherent value in democracy. No, I don't believe in inherent value. Inherent value is objective morals, right? I don't subscribe to that. I say you cannot derive an ought from an is. There are no inherent values in anything. I feel increasing democracy, I like that. And then we're going from my point of view of what democracy is, right? I feel democracy is law of nature. That it's something that is always there. Like, the group always have power over, like, the group always makes decisions together. Subjective inherent value. I don't understand that. Subjective inherent value. Has anyone described what that is? Objective theory of value. Is that it? But isn't that when you say subjective absolute value, perhaps? Those words doesn't match to me. How can it be absolute if it's subjective, right? If I think I don't like X, but you like X, then, like we are in a disagreement, right? But that makes it impossible to be absolute. Like we can't talk about absolutes. We have to talk about what do you feel? What do I feel? Values are based on feelings, right? From my worldview, how I understand the world is that, yeah, values comes from our feelings, mostly. Oh, this is not the same word of value that we're using. They're talking about economic value, and that is not what we're talking about right here. Fuck, I removed this. I didn't even finish the thing. So, back to this. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. Like, this whole idea makes me feel dirty. But on the other hand, do the end justify the means? That is... And justify means... Is there a name for this question? Like, is there a philosophical name or whatever? It is consequentialism. It is called consequentialism. Oh, there we go. Yeah, intrinsic value in Swedish. Yeah, and I don't think we use the intrinsikalt värde, but it's like, in my mind, nothing has, like, intrinsic means that the thing has value, that the thing itself has value. And that I don't agree with. I don't agree with that view at all, because it is the person who ascribes the value. The value is within me. Like, this water is tasty. If I say that, that is why I'm trying to change my language, right? Because the water in itself is not tasty. It is my feelings. I have feelings of tastiness when I drink it, right? Some people put bubbles in their water, and I call those people crazy. But we have different value judgments of the thing, right? So for me, I know it's a big no on the inherent value. You can put whatever word in front of it that you want, but inherent value doesn't match with my worldviews. Doesn't match with how I understand how the world works. Because saying something has inherent value is breaking Hume's guillotine. You're breaking Hume's guillotine. The Isought problem. The Isought problem is, as articulated by the Scottish philosopher Hume, arises when a writer makes claims about what ought to be that are based solely on statements about what is. And what Hume said is you cannot derive an ought from an is. It doesn't make logical sense, semantic sense. It just doesn't work. Because every time you say something is, and if you place an ought in front of it, you always make a subjective value judgment. You always make a subjective value judgment. And so far, I've read this whole thing. It's not a very long article, but I've looked for people who claim to have broken it, but none of them have convinced me that they have broken Hume's guillotine. And if you don't get through the Isought problem, then you cannot talk about, like, in my mind, if you want to talk about objective morality, you need to give me an explanation to how you derive an ought from an is. If you cannot do that, sorry, then I won't. I feel that, I mean, you haven't argued, you haven't convinced me, right? Colgate InnoTap says, I mean that the thing itself has value for you. I feel that democracy is a worthwhile effort. That is what I said, right? I feel that increasing democracy is making the world a better place for humans being. But that is my value, yes. And I mean, not democracy itself, I'm talking about increasing democracy. I believe democracy is always there, right, in my worldview. How I view democracy, it is that it's always there. My views is that increasing the people's involvement in government, in politics, the more we increase people's involvement, the better the world becomes for the people. That is what I believe. That's a value judgment that I make. That makes sense. Colgate InnoTaps continues. Like, for example, some people may play football because they find inherent value, whereas for some people it doesn't, but they play football for health reasons. Okay, isn't that called intrinsic? Intrinsic value. What's the difference between intrinsic and inherent? Here we go. It links the English terms that he was looking for. Instrumental and intrinsic value. In moral philosophy, thanks. Nice. Let's instrumental and intrinsic value are the distinction between what is a means to an end and what is the end itself. Then no. I don't, yeah, exactly. I think that is what I tried to explain. Like, I think that increasing democracy is a good idea. But like democracy in itself. But then again, my view of democracy does not agree with the Wikipedia definition, right? I don't agree with this definition. I don't agree that it is a form of government. I feel democracy is the fact that the people do in fact have the control. So I would say that democracy is a fact about reality, but we can change our forms of government. We can change these and iterate and make them by actively trying to include the people more and more in the decision making. But I don't see any intrinsic value or like inherent value in democracy itself. It's like, if that makes sense. Is increasing democracy a means? Yeah, it's a means. It's like I said, increasing democracy leads to what I feel is a better life for people. What I believe will lead to a better life for people, right? So increasing democracy then is a means to an end. So it is consequentialism, right? For me, thinking about increasing democracy, I'm thinking about the consequences. I'm looking for the consequences. Colgantine on Taps asks, is a better life for people another mean or is it an end? Fuck, I need to see this again. Where do we have it? Instrumental, it means to, whereas the end in itself. A better life is the end in itself, I think. If I understand what you're aiming for, I'm pretty sure that better life, I mean, better life is subjective, right? But that is people reporting better scores on whatever value you want to measure, in whatever way you want to measure it. If people report feeling better, I would say that is the end in itself. And I would say that that is probably the ultimate end of ethics, moral discussions, political discussions. For me, I mean, I'm not saying that that is for everyone. It's like my view of political discussions, and politics in itself is increasing the quality of life, if you want to put it that way. That is the point of the thing. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And that is because that is what makes this discussion interesting, because like, what has the better consequences? I would usually, like, I have usually, this is kind of new ways for me to think, right? That I have usually just thought about what would make me feel that my intent was, I don't know what to call it, pure. It would mesh with my worldview of how, like, I've been very focused on intent, right? I haven't really thought a lot about consequences. I mean, I have, like, between the lines, I've been thinking about consequences, like a better life for people. Well, they reporting a better life. And my belief is that this here, if they do it, Mozilla does it. Like if they have these as focuses, like people who wants to do this. Like there is like actual fascists, actual Nazi people. They exist, right? And those nowadays are very, they feel marginalized, right? So they argue from a marginalized position. People are taking away our free speech, says the Nazi. But if the Nazi got to decide, would the Nazi increase the free speech of the Jewish people? Would they amplify the voices of the Jewish people? Would the Nazi do that? That is a question I have to ask myself. And I'm all for free speech, but they're not talking about free speech. They're talking about amplifying voices. And we have systems in place that amplifies certain types of voices. Like it's been bothering me quite a bit that a lot of like comedy nowadays are based on just people being super narcissistic. Should we amplify narcissism more? Do we want more people? Do we want to like in economics Like if you have a company that would cheat and destroy nature, like whatever, something that I disagree with. Cheat and steal and lie, they have an advantage over someone that wouldn't cheat or steal if they can get away with it. Assuming that someone could get away with lying, stealing, cheating, then they have this in this economic system we have right now. They are incentivized to do those things if they can get away with it, right? Since our only value judgment is how much money can you make. Fuck, I forgot why I went on that tangent. But if, like, yeah. Yeah, we're amplifying those types of people. That is why, like, there are arguments that the best type of CEO in a big company is a psychopath or a narcissist. Like, what did America have as their president? He is one or the other. That's like, it's no question in my mind. Either probably he has narcissistic personality disorder, which sucks for him, I suppose. It's gotta be a sucky way to live. Do I want to amplify those voices? Do I want that to be the norm? Do I want him to be the example? I don't. So maybe. Banana waffle monkey said a Cheeto is what we had. Yeah, a Cheeto. I don't mind Cheetos. Well, I don't eat a lot of candy though. But it becomes an interesting conundrum here. Like consequentialism tells me that maybe I should agree with Mozilla. Maybe. Fuck, I don't know. What else do they say? Work with independent researchers to facilitate in-depth. Is this a thing? Independent researchers? I've done some research. I wanted a result. I didn't get that result. I didn't lie about it, but I wouldn't call myself an independent researcher. I mean, I had a vested interest in getting a result. I did not get that result, and I was honest about not getting that result, right? Because that is how you do good research. But what is an independent researcher? Maybe I'm misunderstanding what they mean. Independent is like they aren't paid by, like someone doing science on climate change maybe shouldn't be paid by the oil industry. And in that sense, I understand what they mean by independent. But on the other hand, they're doing the same thing then, that the independent researcher is the one that has, like all scientists, well, not all scientists, but most scientists agree that like we need to do something about climate change, right? So they have a vested interest. The whole argument behind the independent researcher is that, well, they have a vested interest to get oil, like to get the result that the oil and the oil industry wants. But at the same time, they have a vested interest because they're people, and they. If you see what I'm going towards there, to facilitate in-depth studies of the platform's impacts on people and our societies, and what we can do to improve things. Yeah, I like that. But I mean, that is. You don't have to say this. You say it here. So why do you have to work with? Doesn't you working with, since you're taking a political stance, making them non-independent, should you give them money to be not independent? I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I mean, yeah, I would like to see these studies. And yeah, I'm happy if Mozilla would put some money into it. And I would also be happy if people opened up all the data. As I said, I'm happy with all these things. I just don't understand what the fuck they're talking about here. Colgate InnoTab says, also Mozilla telling other platforms what to do doesn't make sense. Well, they're not telling other people what to do. It's like I said before, right? It's like they're saying that this is a political question. Like if we read into where was it? Like is that decision making power theirs alone? If we do a generous interpretation here and say that, oh, they didn't mean to break the rules and derive an is an ought from an is, and instead, if they just change this word to should that decision making be theirs power, decision making power be theirs alone? Like, should Twitter have this decision making power? That is not Mozilla saying what Twitter should do. That is Mozilla saying that they don't think that Twitter should have this power alone, and others should be involved in that decision making. Oh, it's in the next sentence. All right. These are actions that the platforms can and should commit today. Yeah, they're not telling anyone to do it. They say that they should. They can do it, and they should do it. They're presenting a political view. And Mozilla has been political companies for a long while, right? From the start. Open and free internet is their whole deal, right? So them doing political statements, like we feel that this is what they should do. I don't mind that. The answer is not to do away with the internet, but to build a better one that can withstand and gird against these types of challenges. This is how we can begin to do that. I mean, I take issue with some of the languages and some of the implications here, like from a metaphysical standpoint. Like my pseudo-intellectual worldview, there's a lot of things here that doesn't really work for me. And this makes me feel super dirty about the whole thing. Ugh. Yeah, a lot of the language makes me feel dirty. It's like, it's ugly rhetoric. Yeah, it's ugly rhetoric. And I don't like it. But if we take a generous reading, a charitable reading of it, like, yeah, it's making me feel dirty, but a charitable reading, like most of the things in this tiny little text are things that I could get behind. Most of the things. Yeah. I would get behind opening up Facebook, telling, like, not Mozilla saying it, but the government telling Facebook, open up all your fucking data, man. You fucktard. You fucktard. You Twitter people, open up. Show us what the fuck you're doing. Because, I mean, what they are doing is having a great fucking impact on politics right now. They have a lot of hidden power. Like, and thinking about it like that, it makes absolute sense that Mozilla would go out and say these things. We need more than deplatforming. Yeah, they're not talking about deplatforming. They're talking about opening up the internet, which is the open source thing, right? And as far as I understand, that is the Mozilla thing, right? Fighting for an open internet. Reveal, transparency. This here is like, you're taking a step out of the open source deal and moving towards a more scientific approach to I'm guessing. I haven't read this. Facebook reverses post-election algorithm, changes that boosts news from... Rolled back a change that lifted news. Alright, it's... Yeah. Facebook are making decisions, right? On who gets to be seen and who does not. Just like all the social medias. Well, not all of them. Well, I mean, all of them have algorithms that picks out what you get to see and not get to see, right? And I mean, I'm no conspiratorial thing thinking that they're doing it with malicious intent. They're just being stupid about it. I mean, they have no incentive to be ethical in their algorithms. What are the incentives in their algorithms? They are having lunch 48 minutes late just because this was too fucking interesting. Oh man, this was too interesting. Can't get in on tap. I need to go to lunch. Don't apologize, man. Well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't tell you what to do. You shouldn't feel like apologizing. This is what I live for, these types of discussion. I love this. I really love these types of, especially when I can make it into a metaphysical discussion as well about ethics and whatnot. This was interesting. Me too, says Banana Waffle Monkey. So you just finding something and triggering that makes me really happy. I'm thankful. That is why I don't want you to apologize. I am thankful. It's just... Okay. And I think I'm in a hurry as well because I think I need to... I have like 15 minutes. I think 15 minutes. Then I need to be on my way. This was interesting. Well, I don't know what to feel about this so far. Like something happened. It took a long time for something to happen. Usually I'm not very much in, I don't care a lot about environment descriptions. That is not my my favorite type of prose. There we go. It's not my favorite type of prose. So moving on to stuff actually happening is making me interesting. I'm interesting. They've talked about some ideological things, which also makes me interested. But all right, but I really gotta go. So cheers. Thanks for hanging out. And thanks again, Colgate in on tap. Feel free if you feel that we haven't talked enough about it. Let's bring it up again tomorrow and continue talking about it. That makes me happy.